we talk more about her personal experience in Nanking? Because in her book, she has like met several officers in Nanjing of Kuomintang, and the translator Moore, right?
I've forgotten about that, really, frankly.
Okay.
I know she went to the Sun Yat-sen Memorial,
Okay.
but she met some officers. Was she impressed by them, or what did she think of them?
Yeah, and also they steal her articles.
Oh, they stole her.
Yeah, and also got the article published, and she was extremely angry.
I see. I've forgotten about that. Yeah.
Or can you talk more about?
Well, that's not too important, is it? I mean,
Yeah, or can you talk more about how did she become the first person to predict that Japan will be the biggest threat in Asia?
Well, I don't know if she's the first person, but she could see that, yes, yeah. Okay, so should we add that to the Manchuria story?
Yeah, can you? Thank you.
Okay, should we start again?
Yeah, I'm good.
Another dimension of her experience from Manchuria to Nanjing was the international dimension, because Manchuria was controlled by the Japanese. They had taken over by 1929. And she could see the weight of Japanese growing colonial rule. And so in that sense she could see that there is going to be a conflict between the Chinese and the Japanese increasingly, and probably it would start in Manchuria, which it did 3-4 years later. But she then moved on to Nanjing, and she met officers in the nationalist government and had a mixed impression of them. They published some of her articles without permission and that sort of thing. But also she could see their sort of arrogant ways in dealing with the ordinary soldier, because she would begin, for the rest of the 1930s, identify with the low-level soldier in the especially nationalist army. So she also visited Sun Yat-sen's tomb. And that would be important later, and she began to realize the importance of Sun Yat-sen to both the communists and to the nationalists. And that's important in the sense that she would very soon start working with the widow of Sun Yat-sen.
Okay, and another question is, do you feel her experience from Manchuria to Nanking is the turning point of her? Like, she just turned herself into communist, or she is always that way?
I think that she was already, because of her involvement in the Indian nationalist movement in Germany, already very much on the left and associated with at this time the Comintern in Moscow, which she had joined in Germany actually. So her left-wing views were established, but the difference was she was very focused on India. And there was no way she was going to be able to go to India. And so going to China, she thought maybe she was going to go to India through China or something. I mean, that was in the back of her mind. But when she saw the conditions from Manchuria to Nanjing, she really changed her mind. China became the focus, really, of her career, really, from that point on. And she wanted to write about China and so on. And she began to meet revolutionaries of one kind or another, more in Shanghai than on this trip from Manchuria to Nanjing. She was stopped by the American Consul General and kind of interrogated because they knew she was a leftist. I mean, so that is part of the story.
Okay, I like that.